Moses is one of the most powerful and inspiring figures in human history. His story is told with passion in the Bible and honored deeply in the Quran. For Christians and Jews, Moses is the great lawgiver, the prophet who received the Ten Commandments, and the leader who brought the Israelites out of slavery in Egypt. For Muslims, he is known as Musa, peace be upon him, a mighty prophet chosen by God to guide his people and show the world the power of faith. What makes the story even more fascinating is that both the Bible and the Quran share many of the same miracles of Moses, yet sometimes with unique details that add even more depth to his incredible journey. Today, we will walk through these miracles one by one, comparing how they appear in both faiths, and uncover lessons that can inspire our lives today. Moses' story begins in the shadow of Pharaoh's cruelty. In the Bible, the book of Exodus tells us how Pharaoh ordered that every Hebrew baby boy be killed. In this dark time, Moses was born. His mother placed him in a basket and set him afloat on the Nile to save his life. Pharaoh's daughter found the child and raised him in the palace as her own. The Quran tells a very similar story in Surah Al-Qasus. It even includes a powerful moment when God inspires Moses' mother not to fear, but to trust that he will return her son to her. Indeed, in both accounts, God's hand is seen guiding Moses from birth, preserving him for the great mission ahead. The first miracle often remembered is Moses' encounter with God at the burning bush. In the Bible, Exodus chapter 3 describes how Moses was tending the flock when he saw a bush on fire, yet it was not consumed. From that bush, God called out to him, commanding him to remove his sandals, for he stood on holy ground. God revealed his plan to send Moses back to Egypt to free the Israelites. The Quran in Surah Taha and Surah Naml also tells this breathtaking scene. It explains how Moses was traveling when he saw a fire and approached it, only to hear the voice of God calling him. In both traditions, the miracle of the burning bush was not just about fire. It was about divine calling, the moment when a humble shepherd was transformed into a prophet with a mission that would change the world. But Moses felt unworthy and afraid. He worried that Pharaoh would not listen. He even admitted that he was not eloquent in speech. So God granted him a miracle, his staff. In the Bible, God told Moses to throw down his staff, and it became a serpent. Then, when he picked it up again, it turned back into a rod. In the Quran, the same miracle is described. God gave Moses a staff as a sign of his power, and also made his hand shine with a radiant light when he placed it under his arm. These signs were to give Moses confidence and to prove to Pharaoh that he was truly sent by the Lord of the worlds. When Moses stood before Pharaoh, it was the beginning of a showdown between God's power and human arrogance. Pharaoh demanded proof, so Moses cast down his staff, and it became a living serpent. Pharaoh's magicians were called, and they too cast down their ropes and staffs, and they appeared like serpents. But then the miracle came. Moses' staff swallowed up their illusions. The Bible describes this in Exodus 7, while the Quran echoes it in Surah Al-Araf and Surah Taha. Both scriptures show that human tricks cannot stand against God's true power. This moment is one of the most dramatic miracles, a reminder that God's truth will always triumph over deception. What followed were the plagues of Egypt, a series of signs and miracles sent to humble Pharaoh and free the Israelites. The Bible tells us of 10 plagues: the Nile turned to blood, frogs covering the land, gnats, flies, livestock disease, boils, hail, locusts, darkness, and finally, the death of the firstborn. The Quran also mentions several of these plagues, especially the blood, frogs, locusts, lice, and darkness, describing them as clear signs sent by God. Yet Pharaoh's heart was hardened, and he refused to believe. In both faiths, the plagues serve as a dramatic reminder that when human pride resists God's command, no power on earth can protect against his will. Perhaps the greatest miracle associated with Moses is the parting of the Red Sea. This is the moment that has captured imaginations for centuries. In the Bible, Exodus 14 tells how Moses, pursued by Pharaoh's army, raised a staff, and God drove back the sea with a strong east wind. The waters stood like walls on either side, and the Israelites crossed on dry ground. When Pharaoh's soldiers tried to follow, the waters returned, drowning them all. The Quran describes this in several places, including Surah Ashura. It explains how Moses struck the sea with his staff, and 12 paths opened for the tribes of Israel. When Pharaoh and his army entered, The sea closed over them. Both accounts portray this as the ultimate sign of God's deliverance, that no matter how desperate the situation, God makes a way for his people. After escaping Egypt, another miracle shaped the Israelites' journey: the giving of manna and quail. In the Bible, Exodus 16 describes how the Israelites complained of hunger, and God provided bread from heaven every morning and quail in the evening. The Quran also recalls how God sent manna and quail, but warns that the people were often ungrateful. Here again, we see not only God's miraculous power, but also his mercy, providing for his people in the desert when there was no food in sight. The miracle at Mount Sinai is one of the most defining moments in Moses' life. In the Bible, Moses ascends a mountain and receives the 10 Commandments directly from God, laws that would shape morality for centuries to come. The Quran also speaks of this event, describing how God spoke to Moses and gave him guidance for his people. In both traditions, the miracle was not just about thunder and lightning on a mountain, but about God giving humanity divine law, a roadmap for living with justice, faith, and compassion. Throughout his journey, Moses performed many smaller miracles as well. The Bible tells us how he struck a rock, and water flowed out for the people to drink. The Quran confirms this miracle, even mentioning that 12 springs gush forth, one for each tribe. Both books highlight the patience and endurance of Moses in dealing with the people who often doubted, complained, and even turned to idols despite witnessing countless miracles. What makes the story of Moses so extraordinary is not just the miracles themselves, but the deeper lessons they carry. In both Christianity and Islam, Moses' miracles show us that God's power is greater than any earthly ruler, that faith can move mountains or part seas, and that patience and trust in God lead to ultimate victory. For Christians, Moses is a foreshadowing of Jesus Christ, who brought a new covenant and fulfilled the law. For Muslims, Moses is one of the greatest prophets, honored alongside Abraham, Jesus, and Muhammad. Peace be upon them all. What unites both faiths is the respect for his role as a messenger who stood up against tyranny, who led his people to freedom, and who showed that God is always with those who believe. When we put the Bible and the Quran side by side, we see that the story of Moses is not just an ancient tale. It's a bridge between our faiths. Both scriptures testify that God gave Moses extraordinary signs. Both speak of his courage against Pharaoh, and both remind us of the dangers of arrogance and the blessings of obedience. The details may differ, but the heart of the message is the same. God is powerful, God is merciful, and God delivers those who trust in him. Today, as we reflect on Moses' miracles, we can ask ourselves, what seas in our lives need parting? What pharaohs of fear or sin do we need God to defeat? What wilderness are we walking through, needing God's manna and water to sustain us? The miracles of Moses are not just stories of the past. They are living lessons for today. So whether you read the Bible or the Quran, Moses stands as a giant of faith. His miracles show us that nothing is impossible with God. They remind us that God's love and justice stretch across time, across nations, and across religions. And maybe, just maybe, if we focus on what unites us through stories like his, we can find the faith and courage to change our world today. Peace be upon Moses. Peace be upon all the prophets who brought us God's truth.